woman, black hips, black kiss, black lips, afro with a black pig. Love when you talk that blackish. Black man, black fist,
Vokal Dialect,
black grip,
like, comment, subscribe.
Vokal Dialect Podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Vokal Dialect Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe.
Black schools, black scholars, black doctors, black designers, black garments, black stage, black performance, black panel, black audience, black mothers, black fathers, black sons, black daughters, black love, black honor. You black today, you gonna be black tomorrow. Black woman, black hips.
Welcome to another episode of Vokal Dialect. Tonight's topic is it's called Surviving Child Abuse. And actually, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the show, Vokal Dialect Podcast Show. And before we get into the video, we're going to show you a couple of clips of two sisters that survived child abuse. We'll have a little snippet of our story, and then we're going to begin the show. Peace. Check it out.
I am Latanya Matthews. I'm just going to share a little bit of my testimony of how God has transformed my life through adversities and through trials and tribulations. I was about 5. I did have my mom and my dad in the household. My dad was very controlling. He would have locks and bars on the windows and doors, and whenever he leave, he would lock us in. Whatever he wanted, we had to do it, and we had to obey it. He had a crazy saying that says, family sex is better than any. After he wanted to be intimate with my mom, what he would do is get me, my twin brother, and sister together and put us in a separate room and pop a porn movie in and give us beers. He was like grooming and preparing us for what's to come. So we grew up watching porn and drinking, and he would always massage my shoulders. I would get this eerie feeling on the inside of my stomach like this is not right. I trained myself to take my mind and say, if somebody else is out there, just help me, and keep my mind. So that was my escape, to be able to take my mind and put my mind on somewhere else. Once he got you right to that point, then he go in to the next level or next stage. He starts sending people to have sex with me because I wouldn't have sex with him.
Basically, I was 6 years old. I happened to want to climb into bed. You know how kids climb into bed with their parents, like want to climb up in the bed with them. I never forget, it was a song on, we used to leave a radio on at night, and it was a song by Sting called I'm Missing You. I remembered somebody touching me, and in a child's mind, you're going through your mind like, what is happening? Somebody's actually touching me, or is this what is going on? You don't know what to think. You're 6 years old. I felt totally violated. I hate that song to this day. So I had on these blue and white striped pajamas. All I know is that I'm laying there in the middle of the bed. My mother, she's laying to the wall, so it's like she's at the left of the wall and he's at the right towards the floor. And the next thing I know is that I felt somebody going down in my pajama pants, fondling, going to my panty area, fondling me with their hands. And you just stiff. As a boy, you don't know. You're sleeping. You're in the bed with your parent. I didn't make a sound. I just pretend like I was asleep because it was disturbing to my soul. I was hurt. I was crushed. That really did hurt me, because that type of feeling, somebody that you trust or that you love, taking advantage of you, and you're their own seed, their own child.
All right, peace and power, y'all. How y'all doing? Another episode of Vokal Dialect Podcast, Season 1, Episode 2. We are here with the lovely Queen Goddess Obasi, Kente, Kenwato, Akia, and we are discussing surviving child abuse, a very important topic, especially in the Black community. A lot of stories, you know what I'm saying, that have been coming across and we have heard. So, Queen, go ahead and kick it off. Let's hear your thoughts on this particular subject.
Well, peace to the tribe. Thank you for joining us again, once again. First and foremost, I want to say that it's really important that we disclose that this may trigger some people due to the context in the conversation. We understand that there are many people in our community who may have not healed from child abuse or teenage abuse from, people that they believe that they could have trusted as adolescents. So again, just know that this may cause a trigger warning and be able to rely on your soul family or people that you trust, um, that you can share these experiences with. There's no better feeling than to actually talk to someone about your childhood traumas and to kind of get through them in your adult age. Unfortunately, many of us who have been child abused or abused in general, um, I said that backwards, but many of us who have been abused in general don't realize that this abuse can affect us into our adulthood and it can actually play on the way we treat other relationships, whether it be intimate relationships or just strictly friendships, due to like the concept of abandonment and what that does to your psyche. A lot of times it's said that the imprinting years, which I call, are ages 3 to 7 years old. And they can say sometimes up to 10, but critically between 3 and 7, because that's when you're molding a child to be, who they will be for many, years and decades to come if they're, gifted that thing called life. But I say that all to say, if you're abusing a child at that critical age, you alter their psyche. You can push them into deep, dark depressions. You can actually spiral them into having reckless or promiscuous lifestyles. There's so many distractions that can come along with this. And if it continues to go unnoticed within the home or whatever environment the child is resting their head at, because oftentimes that's when it usually happens when these kids are attempting to sleep. We have to think about who we're sleeping around and the importance of how your parents wouldn't let you sleep, excuse me, over just anyone's house. Have your mother call my mother. You have to make that phone call. You have to know, where your kid's sleeping at night. You cannot just trust anybody over your house or vice versa. These are all types of conversations that we had to go through with our families, and our parents as kids. And I'm sure there are plenty of parents who probably don't even let their kids have sleepovers to this very day because of the rampant of abuse in the Black community. So I think it's really critical that we create a safe space for our children and for those who, may be teenagers and don't feel like they don't have anyone to confide in. And if someone's telling you that they have been touched or molested, or someone, approached them in the wrong way that made them uncomfortable, please listen to these kids, because 9 times out of 10, they're not mature enough in their mind to say that, you know, this happened, and they can't comprehend what is happening. So I think it's really important that we have that safe space, amongst our families and friends, so that kids can actually confide in us and trust us enough to express themselves when they feel like they can't trust anyone.
All right. That was a lot to unpack. A very, very serious topic. Um, you know, very serious topic, especially dealing with the youth. I know some youth who experienced this in these situations, have like PTSD. They have like memory blocks, and they just pretty much they shut down. Certain things affect them when they see certain people or see certain images that remind them of their abuser. So it's a very serious topic. You know what I'm saying? We got to continue to raise awareness about it. and stuff like that. And we have to me, get rid of some of the gatekeeping, because some mothers gatekeep, family members gatekeep. They know that they have a brother or uncle or someone in the family who is like that. And what I mean by gatekeeping is they just keep the secrets, and then they're not letting their child or other youthful people in the family know, like, like, stay away from this particular person. They does this and that. So it's a lot. It's a lot dealing with that. I did a lot of research on it. It's a lot. It's so many articles come up, so many websites. And one thing I did not know, how it was in the Black community, and a lot of people coming out with stories now. You know what I'm saying? Well, my main thing is we definitely got to stop the gatekeeping. If you know someone who is being abused and you still bringing around of a person who is capable of abusing them, that's gatekeeping, and that we need to stop that.
It's a well, it's a sister from Chicago. I've been knowing she lives down here now, and I was on, I was doing radio on WIGO. She wanted to get on something. I remember, I had met her at home. I think about 19 or 20 years old at the time. And so when she told me she wanted to get it on the radio, she said she was a viral or what's going on. She got molested by a family member, was continuously too. And so I'm like, man, no, because when I know back, when I knew her back in the days, she was she was kicking like she didn't have a problem with anything. And so she was like, "Dog, you went through all that shit." Like, yeah, she's an advocate for this. But she got on the radio. My name, Sister Dawn. She had got on the radio at the time and told her whole story, man. But I was sitting there, as the interview, I was sitting there in my mind. You know what I mean? Her name is Don Peaks. What's up, Sister Don Peaks? But yeah. Another thing is that like when a child tell their mother or something, and the mother be in denial about it, that's the sick part about it. You know what I mean?
I think what we got to look at also is I think it's like it's kind of taught. It's an unspoken way of being taught. It's kind of like suppress it, right? Or to don't say that. What goes on in this house, stay on it, stay in this house mentality. And I done said this in plenty lives, audios, whatever. Like y'all spoke to the gatekeeper. And, as Queen was opening up and she was saying like these things called trigger warnings. And she didn't tell no lie. But the worst thing, the thing is why we can't really talk about these things is because people don't like the way it make them feel. Because it dredges up those memories. This is why we deal with gatekeeping. And then, okay, so we deal with that also, like say we deal with two things, like child molestation and woman abuse. If we talk about woman abuse, the first thing we have do is to accuse the woman, right? So these two things run concurrently or synonymous. And like I always say, the biggest staple to me in the biggest pedophilic staple in the Black community is R. Kelly. That's the biggest staple, directly or indirectly. Because the first thing we do is, number one, people don't care about R. Kelly, which is why he was allowed to do what they do. They care about his talent. So what people become in their ignorance, they become dismissive. And they say ignorant things like, well, I don't care what he did. Well, you got to blame the parents for all of this. Tell that to a child that this is happening to. See, this is the ignorance of the black community when you be like, sometimes you can't stand your people because it's all about a song. Free R. Kelly, free R. Kelly. And I always used to say, even something like that, that's a person that most of us will never meet. But be careful how you talk about those subjects around children because you never know what they going through. And they hear their uncles or they hear their brothers or they hear their mothers or they hear their family members in here minimizing what he done to children. That minimization makes them be quiet. They say, well, because what these predators do also is they know how to be very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Charismatic.
Charismatic, but also it's kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Manipulative.
Like, where you manipulative. Hey, well, you know, ain't nobody gonna believe you. You know, if you tell them, ain't nobody gonna believe you because you're talking to an impressionable mind, right? And they're talking to a believable mind, and like the bro just said, when them children tell you, believe them. But a lot of times, and being a single man that talks to females, when I say, as I got into my older adulthood, it blew my mind how many women I talked to that had been molested. It blew. Matter of fact, it's crazy when I talk to a woman that hasn't been molested. That's how prevalent it is. Some of them that I have, they'll say, my own dad molested me.
Yeah.
And like Nada said, he didn't really, know how it was in the black community. That's because we normalize everything. Like we say, if Urugu catches, Urugu sneezes, we catch the cold. We want the cold.
Mm.
So we know how to do everything to the max, whether it's the greatest or it's the worst. So, that's the kind of unfortunate thing. And in those videos that was sent out, they kind of hurt my heart just listening to them. Because, number one, for it to happen once to a child, it's terrible. But to allow it to happen again, which is downright disgusting.
Yeah. It was definitely sad, especially in one of the videos where, the daughter was elated that, she felt relieved, not really elated, just relieved that her mom was like, well, he's going to jail anyway, because he ended up catching a charge or whatever. He's going to jail anyway. And then 2 years later, he's right back in the house pulling up the same shenanigans
Right.
all over again. And, that really made me sad because now your daughter feels like she can't even trust you, the mother or the father, because you dropped the ball in that instance. And it's just sad that you really don't screen people enough, I'm for a long time I chose not to date men with kids, and then, when I first started dating, I started dating men always had kids. And I'm like, I'm never going to be able to get rid of this. But at the same time, I'm like, let's go through the whole questionnaire. Like, how old are your kids? Who are they around? Like, let's go down the list because I don't want to be accused for molestation ever. I don't want your child to be like, oh, she touched me inappropriately, whether if it could have been from a spanking or if they felt like I was, violating them. I'm like, these are really questions that I have to ask. Is anyone in your family a child predator? How close do you live to a child predator? There's a website for this to look into. I don't think people really look into these things close enough or ask enough questions. And, just to be completely transparent to Obasi's point, I was molested by both a male and a woman when I was a kid. And one of them was an uncle. And, when I think about it, I probably didn't tell my parents until I was until 2019 actually, because I had suppressed all of that information or those experiences and really didn't remember it until I started getting Facebook requests from people. So certain people would trigger memories that I had suppressed from ages like 6 to 10, or then again from 11 to like 15. So truth be told, I had lost like a lot of my memory from age 5 to 15, where many of these situations happened, and I had no idea that this was actually something that had happened because I had pushed it so deep down, which was also mentioned, in a video I had watched on that channel. Because unfortunately, it doesn't stop at those two videos that we saw. It's a whole entire YouTube page dedicated to these traumatic stories,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like when you start hearing them and recalling them, and then you start kind of thinking about your life as an adult. And I know it sounds terrible, but I'm thankful I kind of suppressed those memories, especially, during those critical times. I see how it affected my childhood as a child. I could see how, I was supposed to get left back like in fourth grade or something like that, and again in like second grade, because I just was so introverted. I didn't want to speak, I didn't want to talk, I didn't want to do anything. So they thought something was wrong with me. They were like, something's wrong with her. But little did I know, obviously something else is going on at home. Not in my house, but just at relatives' houses. So I said it all to say, I think it's really important to kind of be sensitive to people as far as like what's being said, whether if not we're joking about it. I'm just a little bit more resilient than most people, because there's no way that these experiences are just something to quickly like breeze over or get over. You genuinely have to do some work. And it wasn't until I went to therapy where I was diagnosed with PTSD, because I had five major events happen to me as a child from five, like I said, to 15, that were really traumatic. And I probably could have just benefited from my parents putting me in therapy. But that's taboo for us in the community. It's unorthodox to sound like you actually want to heal or to do better for yourself and your family, to break generational curses. I think people really need to take more time out and be a little bit more serious when it comes to these types of things. Because if I had the opportunity to go to therapy at 5 years old, my parents should have put me in therapy 100%.
Wow. Like I said, it's a lot of stories. I came across, people dealing with physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, sexual abuse, and any form of long-term abuse on a particular child. It's just crazy. But the main thing is, like you said, there's so many videos on YouTube speaking about this particular uh, topic.
Yeah, just
And
on that
again,
page. Scroll through
yeah,
that
just
page crazy.
right, right, just on that page. And and sometimes we have to deal with it. Counseling is like a foreign thing in the Black community, but it needs to be something that needs to take place. You know, everyone needs some form of counseling. Especially in this particular situation. And I tell people anyway. We haven't even had counseling from us coming out of slavery, which
Right.
people just throw toss to the side as if nothing is being passed on to us generation after generation. You know, and we are powerful people, and we have a lot of memories. You know what I'm saying? That come to us spiritual. We are very high intellectual spiritual people. Even the ones who have not been trained in any particular school of thought still have dreams because they have memories, and things come to them when they get to a certain state, or if they're in some type of sleep state, or you just relaxing. Things come back to remembrance, and we have to deal with that. And the best way to deal with that is counseling. You know, I tell anyone, seek some help, counsel, and talk to someone who's going to have an unbiased opinion about you or the situation itself. My first time running into child abuse was when I was in school, and a young lady, came to school, and and she just told the class, I'm having sex with such and such like that, and we was like, what? So by us going to school, we like, okay, like a few people that was already having sex, but no, she was calling out a person's name, and it was a substitute teacher that caught it. When the substitute teacher caught it, like, yo, like this is who you talking about? And and after that, the police come up to the school, talk to her the next day, and that's how that happened. But I think that was her way of getting it out or whatever. But you never know what was going on in her mind because she's dealing with a lot of trauma. You know what I'm saying? She's dealing with physical trauma as well as sexual trauma because that's what it was, and also dealing with neglect because from my memory, I think her mother knew, her mother and her sister knew, but they didn't say anything. But once the father found out, he was really devastated and stuff like that. And that was the first time ever. I think I was in junior high school that I heard of a young lady actually being abused by one of her family members.
Well, in most, well, that's like a rare case that somebody would talk. Because most cases, the kids don't talk because they be scared. You know what I mean?
It's interesting you mentioned gatekeeping too. Like I've been doing my family's genealogy since 2011, and I'm still doing it. It takes a really long time when you start going into your family's history and really starting to kind of piece together your family tree, if you will. And when you start asking people questions, that's where the gatekeeping starts coming in. Like, oh, this person is supposed to be related to this person, but this person's really related to this person because they
Yeah.
uncle or their father, they don't really have that bloodline down intact. And it's unsettling because I feel like right now, and I'll just be completely transparent, like my family, I feel is a little bit threatened by the information that I do know because they don't know how much I've uncovered with all of the research that I've been doing since 2011. So it makes people uncomfortable because now they're like, okay, she could expose us and we don't know, who could that trickle down. And then you have the elders who are like, we don't want to disrupt the family dynamic for what it currently is. To Knowledge's point, everybody's at Thanksgiving. We know this person, has a issue. He's a pedophile, but yet he's still allowed to come around everybody, but make sure we keep all the kids in the back. You know what I mean? Make sure he only could use the bathroom up here in the front. Or maybe we should invite him earlier, let him leave early so that everybody could come after, and there's no problems. There's always people trying to get around this whole situation, and I just really think it's sad. I really think we need to start putting things out a little bit more in the open and allowing people to handle it how they see fit.
Yeah, that's crazy because you got to look at, back in the days with the African band body situation. They said that everybody in that project knew what was going on years ago.
Yeah.
Years later,
Wow.
so years later, a few years back, everything just came out. Man, y'all been knowing about this, man, since the 70s, the 80s. We don't say.
But see, and that's a good example. But when you
Mm-hmm.
have pieces of crap, I say crap, like KR again, back to the quote unquote talent being bigger than the problem.
Say that
And
name again.
KRS-One gets up and says,
I say that
I
name
don't care
again.
what he did. KRS-One.
All right.
When he gets up there and says, and this video has been deleted since, and he knows he said it because he spent so much time trying to backtrack. When he says, I don't give a F what he did to those boys. What does that have to do with hip hop? You see, again, back to that minimization. Because this is why we have it so prevalent in the music industry. Because it's like it's cyclical, right? So it starts in the direct family. And then everybody knows Michael Jackson was sold into the industry for talent and fame. Everybody knows allegedly how Quincy Jones get down. Everybody allegedly knows who the gatekeepers are. And when you have allegations, because all of this stuff is together, right? So when you have allegations like a Diddy, and then you have fat pieces of trash like this dude named Ugly Money that gets on his podcast and says, "God dang, I can't. Okay, I already can't listen to R. Kelly no more. Now you telling me I can't listen to that Diddy? They tearing our Black Kings down again. The minimization, because that has been normalized in his family. So when it's normalized in your family, because Big Mama know how, Uncle John was getting down, but they ain't say that. Like Queen said, just he can't use that bathroom. He can only use this bathroom. Or, everybody know, Auntie whatchamacallit's son ain't right, but that's her baby, so ain't nobody gonna really hurt him. Because when we say, well, what is it? Because I always say, in order to bring about change or revolution, because revolution is just really total change, you have to do something different. You have to bring about a consequence. It got to be some ass whooping given out for messing with children. And what's crazy is a lot of women
that's death.
Death
ain't no ass.
But see, you can't even get to a conversation. I know that, but you can't even start with a conversation because nobody want to talk about it. Because nobody wants to feel guilty because they know that they've been doing it. And guess what? It's even generational because his dad did it, and his great granddaddy did it. Just like in one of those other videos where it was another sister, and she said, I thought I protected my children from it, but my sister ended up doing it to me. My sister ended up doing it to my children.
Yeah.
So we see how it kind of still get you because we still refusing to deal with it. Like Ken said, we bring it down what you need. Forget a fight outside. Yeah, you get it to where they can't get up no more. But what's the most disturbing thing that has been told to me by women, young ladies, is that the jealousy from their mother. Their mothers that was like, you ain't gonna come between me and my man. My man ain't did that to you. Oh, you just want my man. Girl, if you cost me my relationship, I kick you know what.
Yeah.
Again, the normalization. So when she doesn't do anything and she doesn't tell anybody and she just lets it happen, like Queen said, it creates this promiscuousness in her. And then what do these niggas do? They call them hoes, say they ran through, talk like Corey Holcomb all on there for everybody that think that fat piece of trash real. We have to understand what these women go through, what young boys go through, because that's something that we don't talk about. Sexual molestation between men, because guess what it was taught to us? That it was hot that an older woman was doing that to you. Still the same. Your innocence is being stolen because your experience of your first kiss, your first moment was stolen. So I think we have to get real. We have to get real and like we've been the main word we've been using. Stop this gatekeeping. Stop gatekeeping in the families. Stop gatekeeping in the fake conscious community. Stop gatekeeping. It's not okay to know somebody doing something and say, "Well, I just want to be peaceful." It don't make me feel good. I can't watch rainbows. It's not about that because this stuff is gonna spread generations whether you talk or you don't. But it's good to let children and women know that there's people out there that care. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yep. Make a lot of sense. It's just the emotional side of it, and these people go through this and trigger certain things, and man, it's just bad all the way around the board. As I
As a whole, what's the solution, man?
Solution is one, stop the gatekeeping. Two, it's been responsive. Anyone give you any type of signs, anything as far as um mental, physical, sexual, emotional, any type of abuse. It and it's definitely to be responsive, to take heed and also try to help. In most cases, when you're dealing with the youth or someone's dealing like with mentorship, it's kind of hard because when you say something that day, that kid still has to go back home to that person that day until there's a an investigation. But the main thing is one, stop the gatekeeping. If you know such and such in your family is a weirdo, man, keep them away and let them know. You know what I'm saying? Let them know and let them know in a way where they will know for sure. Hey, don't get caught in a room with him. Don't go around him. And as a parent, your job is to keep your child away from these type of people, these type of individuals. We have to do that, especially me. That's one thing in my family I am known for because my nieces come to me. They always talk about how much they love me and I always just give them good advice. And they're open and honest and they come and talk to me about what I'm saying, things that be going on. And then how it is some men in my family who are weirdos. I'm just gonna be for real. They are, and they tell me like, I'm glad you don't act like such and such, and what I do is me you know, having character and integrity, I keep that going. I uphold it. You know what I'm saying? Even with my daughter loves me. You know what I'm saying? And we have to do that as men, and especially in the community as well in the family. We have to make these young ladies feel comfortable. You never know what they're going through on the outside of the house or out in the world. Not only for them to go for on the inside and the outside is just crazy, and that's what make a lot of people shut down. I know a young lady. She shut down. She shut down from I think for like most of my high school, and then when I guess when she grabs hold of it, she just went on a sexual frenzy, and people didn't know what was going on with her. You know what I'm saying? And that come from her being sexually abused and mentally abused too. You know, so it's just crazy, and we just gotta
And
stop
that
the
was
gate.
like how the sister said. That's what the sister said. She said, the first one that you, she said it was kind of like a victimization mentality where the abuser began to abuse. And she said she began to have sex and just promiscuous with anybody. And that's why I said,
Mhm.
and that's why I kind of go so hard because in today's society, the underdevelopment of most black males, they don't understand. So there's not a lot of compassion. That's also why we dealing with this in the black neighborhood, in the black community, wherever that is. Because there's no compassion. We don't have no compassion for women. We don't have no compassion for children. We don't have no love. And you can't do nothing without no love.
There ain't no love.
So yeah, like you said, the solution.
Like you said, ain't
What's
no
that, bro?
love, man. I speak to something fire.
Ain't no
Huh?
love, dog.
You remember, like,
I said, no, ain't no love, dog.
it reminds me of, like, when the OGs used to say back in the day, like, or the gangsters really, like, women and children are off limits. And it's like,
Yep.
how did we go from such respect to such disrespect? Like, what happened? Where did the lines get crossed? And for me, I always go back to, slavery, unfortunately, and colonialism and how that played out and how our men were abused in those concentration camps. And, how that
Yes.
actually trickles down to the Black family and how does that play out in our homes. Unfortunately, women had to witness their husbands being raped, or their husbands had to witness their wives being raped. It's such a criminal act, and unfortunately to Knowledge's point earlier, like this is in our DNA. We can still feel these wounds. We can still hear these cries. You know, these are real life things. And Obasi, when you were speaking, the first thing I thought about was growing up, you know, on Staten Island in the inner city, and how we used to, you know, live in the projects, and we had lived less than 2 miles from the school, so we had to walk. And we lived at the bottom of the hill, and our school was at the top of the hill. And we had to probably pass about 10 project buildings in the process. We had to pass probably a couple corner stores. And who was always outside trying to get our attention? The older high school men, you know, the hustlers around the way who were now preying on young women, get catcalling and calling them names, trying to get their attention, you know, things of that nature. So, you know, with that whole R. Kelly, P. Diddy surviving vibes, this is very normal in our community, unfortunately, and people have consistently turned the other cheek for far too long. Like, this is centennials worth of trauma that we're still dealing with.
Yeah,
Well,
because
You know
I
something?
look at it is like
You know something?
a child, real love boy at this point is saying that somebody is telling her mother that she is getting molested in the mother that totally ignore it. What is that child to do? Where is that child to turn? That's the problem right there.
But you know something, man? Queen just said something. She said, this been going on since slavery.
Yeah, it has.
To where the women had to watch the men be raped and vice versa. So let's Sankofa, go back and bring it forward. If we don't deal with it, if we've never dealt with the traumatization of it then, right? And now in 2024, to where being African, the slave Holocaust is being ignored. If that's successfully buried like these goofies are trying to do, we can never really fully go back and unpack where the trauma really started from, if that makes sense what I'm saying. Because that's a whole mountain of trauma that people are just acting like never happened. So if we can't go back and say that's probably one of the first times that sexual trauma on that level had ever been induced on the people. So now if it's being minimized to say, well, our people, thank you. Well, it's only 18 votes, and how they bring votes over, and they ain't even have room. See, again, this is when you have these ignorant Google babies that don't know nothing. This is what you are wiping away. This is just like a mother saying, that didn't happen. Now go up there and be quiet. That never happened. The victim can never really get full healing because it's being wiped away from their memory. Like Ken said, and that's what are they to do? What is a child to do when a mother say, be quiet? You better not tell nobody. You just like, they can't do nothing because they can't do nothing but endure it. Just think about that sister that said she was lucky that a family member caught him by looking through the window. What if that family member never would have looked at the window?
That's something right there.
Because there are no protectors.
Right.
Because there are no protectors. Now, going back to this normalization, to this rationalization, because the moment we bring up R. Kelly again, who was a staple, like I said, a huge staple in the Black community, the first thing we say, well, there were R. Kellys that tried to pick girls up at school. Why? Where were the men? Where were the protectors that made sure that wasn't going down?
Okay, look, you say R. Kelly, right? But guess what? Go ahead.
Huh?
I say you bring up R. Kelly.
No, I'm just saying when you remove the protection, that's what happened.
Yeah, but check this out. R. Kelly, but guess what? his older sister was abusing him as a child.
It's always
That's the
starting from
cycle, dog.
somewhere. It's
Yeah.
always starting from somewhere.
But,
Absolutely.
but okay, now go back even deeper. Remember in the Surviving documentary, he talks about almost like this Freudian Oedipus complex that he had for his mother.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about how his mama wore this little cheap red lipstick. He said she would stop at McDonald's and she would get a cup of coffee. And he said she had this little cheap red lipstick and she would drink it. And he would always want to drink from the side to where her lipstick was. Because in his mind, he was in love with his mama. See, this is where we have to really, but when you are being pushed as just a talent, who really cares? Oh, that's just, Robert's just a little weird, you know. So again, he himself is a victim that's victimized.
You know what I wanted to say too? We've been bringing up musicians, and one of the musicians I thought about was Kendrick Lamar. How he said, when his grandma transitioned, no one was praying for him any longer. And it made me think about how we've made it seem like African spirituality is witchcraft. And, just thinking about prayer and spirituality and how many of our grandparents have transitioned, and if we are the OGs, are we actively praying? Are we burning candles and honoring ancestors and, you know, paying our respects in the way that we're supposed to, covering our bloodline? I know, like, when I'm spending time on my own with spirit, I'm literally covering my entire bloodline. I say it by last name. No, I don't F with none of these people on this bloodline, but guess what? If I have to be the one to cover my bloodline and protect them from against warfare, then let it be. And that's where that whole generational curse breaker thing comes from. I am the black sheep. I completely own this position since I was 6. I already knew the vibes. You know what I mean? But I have a video speaking about candle magic and how there's certain colors of the candles, that we can use, kind of going back to last week's episode about the sacral chakra. Like, it is really important to burn those yellow candles so that you are focused on, certain tasks and agendas and programs and projects that you're trying to put forth and, see the light, and perfect those things. Is really important that we're still praying for these types of things, because there's going to be people, God willing, after us to survive. And if they don't have our spiritual protection, then what do they have? For me, it came down to a study, when I realized, like, where did this start? This is a conversation I had in therapy. Like, where did this start? She gave me a whole bunch of questions and a worksheet to think about, if there was molestation in your family, where did it come from? Fast forward and think back to, where all of these memories could have initiated. And then when I started doing my study, I'm like, slavery, it has nothing to do with me. It's just in the bloodline at this point, number one. Number two, when you really start thinking about it, why is it always the uncle? So I started digging into just what the uncle, facet of the family dynamic is. Who is he? What is his position? Why is he trustworthy? What puts him in the arena to be the person to get his feelings crossed? Like, what is it? And then I thought about the term Uncle Tom, and I'm just like, what is it about this uncle's complex? Do you understand?
Yes.
This is where my mind goes.
Man, a lot to unpack. It is always the uncles though. It's crazy. But the main thing we got to do is keep communication. Uh, kind of have a safe place and have principles in place when you with your kids, and don't be afraid to share information. You know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to talk to your kids. Don't make them be embarrassed or afraid or confused or make them feel like something's wrong with them. These are the solutions when you're dealing with the youth and stuff like that. You Guys, got any last words?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Vocal Dialect will be coming to you with more topics dealing with issues in our community. Trying to come up with solutions with them also. So make sure y'all support the page. Comment on the videos. Share the videos, and most definitely subscribe to the Vocal Dialect podcast show.
All right, that's another one. Peace and power. Peace, family. Thank y'all for checking us out. Vocal Dialect. Peace.